wedding planning podcast.
Does the word wedding have to add pound signs?
Can I buy my dress on the high street?
And how the hell do I seat my divorced parents without starting World War III?
Is my handwriting pretty enough to DIY my place names?
All this and more in this episode of Wildly Wed, the Real Wedding Planning Podcast.
Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast.
I'm Vicky from Spot On Ceremonies.
And I'm Keshira from Keshira Creative Events. Welcome. So we are talking about dressing to impress first, Vicky. Let's talk about wedding wardrobes. Can we start with dresses?
Go on then, let's start with dresses. And I think that just applies to whether you are the bride, whether you're the mother of the bride, bridesmaids, we've got it all going on really. But the fundamental options when it comes to your wedding dresses, you've got designer, you've got bespoke, you've got wedding wear shops. Now, they are usually the shops that you have to go to by appointment. You've got hire, you've got pre-loved, and also high street.
Yeah, definitely. I think, okay, I don't know where we start, where we break this down, but I guess your budget and your priorities. Let's go right back to the beginning.
Back to basics.
What are your priorities? How many dresses do you want? Is that a naughty thing to think about?
Well, no.
I had 2 dresses because I had one for my legal ceremony and then I had one for my celebrant-led party, that kind of wedding.
And sometimes people do. I've had brides where they have one dress for the ceremony and for the sort of, you know, breakfast, and then they have a shorter, a funkier or a sort of more party outfit for the party.
So you can have more than one dress, or there are ones that you can just remove the skirt layer. Not as in, like, not so you've got your knickers hanging out, but you can shorten the skirt, or you can hook it up, or you can have it. But yeah,
I guess adapt it.
You can adapt it. But I guess, where are you getting dresses from to start with? Yeah, there's lots of those options. Like you say, there's the appointment only. There's a lot going on at the moment. I actually saw a seamstress writing on a Facebook group the other day about there's some stores that sell quite a lot of dresses, and you go in and you can buy one off the peg and you can walk away with it. What those stores will often tell you, according to the seamstress, is that everything can be altered to fit you. Now, the seamstress was warning, firstly, it's not cheap to have a dress altered.
No, it's not.
Secondly, not every size or style of dress can be altered to fit you. So I guess if you don't know anything about dress fitting, it might be good to take someone along with you that does.
Yeah. Do a bit of homework at least.
Yeah, definitely do your homework, because I wouldn't have a clue. And also you want to trust the people you're buying from. So a lot of the time I'd be like, oh, if you think this could work,
I'll go with that.
Yeah. So I think you do have to be careful. Obviously, high street, you can order all sorts. You can order as many as you want, try them on at home, which might be a nice way of doing things as well to make sure you're comfortable. And designer, bespoke, pre-loved.
Pre-loved, I think, is a great option. And you've certainly then got scope. If you're buying pre-loved, generally speaking, I think it's fair to say your costs are going to be lower. So you can then maybe budget a bit more heavily for your alterations.
Yeah, absolutely. And pre-loved could be family.
Vintage,
It could be family. Like, it could be an heirloom, or it could be vintage. It could just be that there are charity shops that sell on.
Yeah, for sure.
So lots of different things to think of. What do you need to think about when you're looking for a dress, though?
Well, I suppose, and I learned this at my cost being very short and a little bit round, that not all those beautiful styles that I look at on the page or on the screen are necessarily going to do a little short Ewok a lot of favours. So I think, again, it's about, if you're not particularly confident with clothes and you don't have a great idea with what suits your body shape, maybe that's where you start before you even go dress shopping. You know, talk to somebody, maybe it's a designer, or maybe it's one of those stores that have a personal shopper that will work out what your shape is and what sort of styles are going to flatter your shape in the first instance.
Yeah, I think I had a really good grasp of what I thought would work for me, but I then went and I did what everyone says you should do, and I tried on all the different styles, And my God, it was the most funny experience ever. So I tried on every single style imaginable. And it was really fun to do.
Yeah.
But actually, at the end of the day, what were the styles that suited? There was a style that I didn't think would suit me that really did.
Yeah.
So I guess try it on as well. For me, when we're looking for a dress, has it got pockets?
Absolutely. I think pockets is a massive thing. Now, I'm going to make a confession. When I got married, I was a filthy, dirty smoker. And I really wanted a pocket for my Benson and Hedges and my lighter. I'm not anymore. Obviously, that little avenue of pleasure is now closed to me. But for some people, a pocket, for whether it's for your lipstick, for your smokes, or for your tissues or whatever, that might be a really important detail.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth thinking about those details.
I mean, tell me a person that doesn't want a pocket in a dress. Mm-hmm. Tell me a person that doesn't think the best dress has a pocket. So I'm with you on that. And also just having a think about how you like to use the toilet.
Well, exactly. Do you want to be flanked by all your bridesmaids while you have a pee, or would you really prefer for it to be a personal moment? Because actually some dresses are simply too complicated to lift up off the floor as a sort of sole wearer. You need a team behind you. Do you want a team behind you? Think on.
I mean, I'm okay with everyone coming to the toilet with me,
You're
but
very chilled about all that sort of stuff.
Very chilled. At the same time, I'd like to be able to just go for a wee.
No, you see, I'm complete opposite. I'm like, I want a frock that involves no dressers or assistance. Thank you very much.
No assistance. No. And I guess when you're going and trying it on, maybe you don't know yet, but have a think about jewellery or headwear.
Shoes?
Shoes. Anything like that. Are you having a veil? And there are some incredible, again, when you're looking at veils, you can get bespoke veils. You can get these incredibly embroidered designs. So there's lots of different things to think about. And you've got to your pants.
Oh, absolutely. You know me, I do like comfy underwear, and I would urge you, please, shoes, underwear, anything that you are going to be wearing on the day, make sure that you have literally, it's like running a car in. Wear it. Know that it's comfortable. Know that your bra isn't going to leave you with horrible red welts under your boobies, which is not a good look for your wedding night. Check all this stuff. It's important.
Yeah, and then if we think about maybe you don't want to wear a dress. Maybe you're a bride that wants to wear a suit. Maybe you're a groom that wants to wear a suit. Suits are really, I find, quite tricky because there aren't that many options that are easily available. That's what I've found. When I've looked around for menswear options, you can do exactly the same. You can bespoke, you can tailor, you can go high street. But there's less options for you to go and try them on, I feel. You've got your high street staples, like your Moss Bros.
Yes, of course.
Do you hire them? Do you buy them? Like, what choice are you going to make? So I suppose you need to think about whether you'll wear it again. And do you
Is
need
it an investment?
Yeah, and also, do you need a full suit?
So maybe not the waistcoat, or
Yeah, maybe you just want a jacket with some chinos.
That's a good point.
Or maybe if you're a bride wearing a suit, maybe like a high street suit would be great, and perhaps
blow the budget on the shirt or something like that.
Yeah. What about a really funky like tie or pocket square or really fun socks? So braces. I like braces, belts and braces.
I don't like braces. I'm allergic to fun socks.
I'm allergic to braces because I think my body shape doesn't work with them, but maybe for a man. No, Vicky's out on the braces.
It's not for me, I'll be honest with you.
Face, she does not like braces.
Hey, it's not my big day, and if you're into braces, go for it. Fill your boots, I say. But I think also, I had a groom last year who they bought their suits. They were all high street, but they went to a tailor and they got the buttons changed. They found some really lovely antique pewter buttons.
Nice.
And they just changed those up. So that was a great way of sort of hitting the budget. That it didn't cost them a fortune to actually buy these. I can't remember where they got from, but they were high street. They were not expensive. Okay. The antique buttons, they were a little bit expensive. Then they spent the extra money on having them sort of professionally sewn on. But they looked the business, and it had a kind of bespoke air to it.
Yeah, so that kind of upcycle, recycle, of that. That bit of sustainability, a bit of pre-loved.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things to think about with the dress and dressing yourself, and also dressing your attendants. I guess if you've got bridesmaids, you need to be thinking about what they're wearing. Do you want them all to wear the same colour? Do you want them all to wear the same dress? Who's paying for those?
Yeah, that, for goodness sake, get that one clear really early doors, I would say.
I have been a bridesmaid so many times, and it's one of the bits that you're always like, you want me to wear that? Am I buying it? Are you buying it? Do I need my own shoes? What? Yeah. So be really clear on that. But also, you can do. So when I got my bridesmaids together, I ordered, no joke, 60 dresses and jumpsuits online. 60. And I had all my bridesmaids come over for a day. We got a lot of Prosecco out. We got some charcuterie boards, some cheese boards, and they tried on everything. There was all different sizes, shapes, colours. And at the end of the day, I went, whatever one fits.
Yeah.
Whichever one you're comfortable in, you can wear. And that's
actually,
how we
you'd
decided.
made a day of it as well, which is really quite a lovely thing to do.
Yeah, however, I had to get actual clothes rails into my house to hang up.
But that's you, and that's why we love you, because it's go hard or go home, isn't it? And another thing that actually I would say, if you are shopping for particularly attendance dresses, it's worth a look. If you're online, have a look at prom dresses and party dresses, as well as bridesmaids dresses. Definitely. Specifically, because quite often that can throw up some interesting results.
Yeah, and I think when we spoke on one of our video podcasts that will be coming out soon, we spoke to an incredible dress designer. Yeah. So there's lots of hints and tips that he gave us.
Definitely tune in for that one. Yeah. That's a great one. And just finally, a word on hats. I talked to a mother of bride recently. She was quite happy with a really simple frock, but she wanted a statement piece. She's one of those women that can wear a hat and it looks great on it. I wear a hat, I look like a mushroom. But she just doesn't do it for me. But she sort of spent her budget on a bespoke hat, and it actually wasn't as expensive as I thought it might be. And so I'd say if you are a hat kind of a girl, and particularly mother of the bride, mother of the groom, have a look at having a sort of Titford made just for you, because that is an investment piece as well.
Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast.
Right, Keshira, so this is a serious question. How do you seat your divorced parents without starting World War III?
I'd have a chat with them. Let's start off right at the beginning and ask them how they feel about it. I get it's hard because it might be something as a family you're not comfortable talking about. So if that isn't something you can do, then you know how it's going to feel. You know how your family are going to feel about each other. There's bits of, for the ceremony especially, actually if it is your parents, actually you're both my parents, so I'm going to want you at the front. Who walks you down the aisle?
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing that, do you need someone to walk you down the aisle? It's a really tricky one, and it's really tricky when you come to then the dinner side of things. I think that bit's easier, actually. I think the ceremony's the hardest part.
In terms of seating plan.
In terms of the seating plan for people that don't get on, because you want them at the front. But there are different sides. There's two sides to a ceremony room, and you do not have to do one side for one person's family, one side for another. It's don't take a side, sit where you like.
Yeah.
But you will want your closest family at the front, generally speaking. But when it comes to the meal, you can sit them wherever. You don't have to have a top table, or you could have a top table that has your best friends. You could have a sweetheart table that's just you and your other half. You can have a table just with you, your other half, and your kids. You don't need to. If you've got family that don't get on either, ask them how they feel, but that might open a big can of worms, or make the decision for them and know that it's your wedding day, and family that love you, friends that love you, will do as you would like them to on that day.
I think it's an interesting one, and you know, you're right. In an ideal world, you'd have the conversation and just say, listen, this is our big day. We'd just ask that you suspend hostilities, or we don't want to make anyone feel awkward, but would you mind just sucking it up for a day? I had a bride a couple of years ago who that was not the way their family communicated. They didn't have those kind of honest and open conversations. So she wrote them all a letter. It was a really clever way. After they announced their engagement, everybody was independently very, very pleased. She wrote to them all to thank them for their good wishes and said, just want to tackle this head on before we go any further in our planning. You all mean so much to us. And she wrote this really eloquent and elegant letter to each of them that basically translated into bloody well behave yourselves. So it was putting down a marker really early on, but in a very tangible way, because it was committing it to paper. It wasn't just a passing conversation. And that, apart from the dear so-and-so, the rest of the letter was exactly the same to every single person that there was potentially going to be difficulties with. And it was one of those very convoluted families where there were difficulties at every turn. And actually, come the dawn, come the day, everybody behaved beautifully. And you would never have known. So I would just say, I'm not sure that will work for every family, but it's certainly something worth considering, that if you can't have those big conversations, those very direct conversations, then think about maybe just a letter, a card, or, whether it's a sort of Facebook message even.
I also want to stress the point that this is your day. If there's someone you don't want at your day, then don't invite them.
Don't even put them on the seating plan.
Don't even have them there. It's so hard, and it really, everyone has their own battles and their own relationships they've got to work with, but you don't have to have someone there that doesn't make you feel good. So it's a really tricky one. But then a bit more lighthearted, just moving on to how you actually see people in general, I suppose. So your ceremony.
Yes. So with your ceremony, I would say think about exactly that. Who are those key people that you really want closest to you physically? Also think about practicality as well. If you are having people who are going to sign a certificate for you, don't stuff them at the back of the room, because then that's just logistics, unnecessarily just logistics.
So
where they've got to, have them somewhere on an aisle, perhaps.
So if they're doing a reading or something,
think about that. Think about the stage management of it. If you've got anybody who needs a wheelchair space where you might have to remove a couple of chairs to accommodate them, plan that in advance. Know that whoever is your planner or coordinator on the day, let them have that on their radar. The same, parents with children in buggies. Troubleshoot that early on. You don't necessarily, in a small ceremony space, want a buggy in the room. Speak to the parents. Can they bring baby in what are those things?
Papoose.
A papoose. Or, maybe they can just carry them in and park the buggy outside. So it's all that sort of thing. Just be across that. Access is a really big thing.
I guess you generally want 2 seats set aside at the front. It's what I normally do. I'd normally put 2 seats.
Have 2 seats set aside for the bride and groom, or the bride and groom, however, because when your love story is being told, you don't really want to be standing there. It could be sort of 10 minutes. And it also, if you're a photographer, it's really lovely. If you're both seated, you can then freely sort of look, enjoy, you can see your guests, and your photographer will get all of those lovely reactions.
And then for the actual wedding breakfast, again, it really depends the style of food. It depends on your venue, because you might have a venue that doesn't have room for you all to be in one room, for example. I've got a couple of those coming up. One of them is a very nice, very high-end venue, but for the wedding breakfast, not everyone can be in one room, which is really interesting.
That's quite a challenge, I should imagine.
It is a challenge. And then another one, so a pub wedding, for example, is a long, thin, narrow, old pub. So you've got people going from one end of the pub to the other. How do you look at the seating for that? That's really interesting. Think about who you want to put where and how do you do it. And I think some of the things that I've suggested is actually breaking up your speeches can make those people feel more included. So it's not about where you sit them, it's about how you plan your day around that.
Yes.
If you've got to have people sat in different spaces or they can't all see you from where they're sitting, then where do you move to? Making sure you get up during the meal and you move, or doing it slightly differently. You've got to work with the venue. You've chosen that venue for a reason. So you've probably thought a bit about how you seat people, but also what kind of food you're having if you're having a buffet.
Yeah.
So you might not need a seating plan at all. I've got a wedding this year, having street food catering. They're having no seating plan. There's tables, there's chairs. They can go up, they can grab their food, they can sit wherever they like.
Yeah.
But if you are having a seating plan, whether that is feasting, so it's long trestle tables, whether it's round tables, quite traditional, the 111s, the 222s, the traditional wedding breakfast. If you decide to do a seating plan, it is quite a task.
I was going to say, one of those things, do not leave it till the last minute.
No. And you want to have the overall plan decided. I'd also say, as much as you don't want to leave it to the last minute, you want to leave it as late as possible to print that plan, because there are always last minute changes. Not that anyone ever wants to change things, but there are always changes last minute. When you're thinking about your seating plans, you've got to think about the size of the table, how much room that physically takes up to put a plate, to put starter cutlery, to put main cutlery,
Glasses,
to put a glass of water, a water glass, a wine glass, a champagne toasting glass, your napkin, your nameplate, your menu.
Possibly your favour, if you're going to do all that
if you're doing favours,
Yeah.
it takes quite a lot of physical space. So you really need to speak to your planner, speak to your venue, speak to your caterer about how many people you can get on each table, because I think I've got a couple at the moment that thought they could get 6 people per trestle table, but they'd forgotten that their trestle tables would all be butted up against each other.
Oh, so you've got legs.
And also you haven't got ends.
No, of course. Yeah.
So it's about how many people can you physically see. If you're putting a table against the table, you can't have someone sat in the middle of that.
No,
in between. So they were like, oh no, didn't even think about that. We had to rejig, had to add in more tables. Yeah. So things to think about for sure.
That's a real logistical one, isn't it? I think. But from where you sit people to your place cards, your wedding stationery comes in now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I love stationery. I think I've always loved it. You know, when you're at school and you had a pencil case, I loved my pencil case, and I still love stationery now. So there's lots of different ways that you can do stationery. There are some incredible calligraphy artists, stationery designers out there. There's beautiful illustrators who can now illustrate on the tablecloth. So you can have your tablecloth and they can paint on the tablecloth, and it's
that's fancy.
Unreal. But also you can do some of that yourself if you're artistic, if you're creative. What are the bits that you choose to do yourself? It's a big task again, though. If you've got 120 guests.
I was going to say, I think I'd be really cautious about overcommitting myself, because DIY with things like that sounds very easy. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that's an enormous ask.
Shall I tell you what I did?
Go on then.
And
it'll be ridiculous.
I love it, and now I regret it slightly. So it was DIY. We made everyone a beaded bracelet with their name on. And that was their place name. So literally the bracelet you're wearing, Vicky is now demonstrating, beaded, like a school bracelet, where when you're little and you make your friends.
A Swiftie bracelet.
A Swiftie bracelet, that's it. So we made those for everyone, so everyone's name. So we thought, this will be great. 120 people, everyone will have a bracelet. Absolute utter madness. But it was lovely to do, and I saw a friend recently and they still wear their bracelets sometimes. So that's really nice. But when you're thinking about stationery, there's quite a long list of stationery you can have. Mm-hmm. You don't need it all, but you can have a think about your welcome sign, your order of the day, maybe a cocktail bar menu, your menus on the table. Invitations, save the dates, thank you cards. There's a lot of stationery. Maybe if you cut down by having a menu per table rather than a menu per person. Table numbers, table names. There's a lot there. And so a big amount of budget can go towards stationery if stationery is important to you. So factor that in when you're looking.
And do just be realistic. When it comes to DIY, go into it with your eyes open. It is a huge job. So it's that thing again of how valuable is your time.
Yeah, and beware that you might think buying something on the high street is a cheaper way of doing it. It's generally not. And the quality's not as good.
No.
So look around, shop around, speak to some actual stationery designers because they are fab humans.
Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast.
The next bit we're going to talk about is something that I might get a little bit...
Aerated?
Is that the word?
Yes, I think it
go
is.
with that. Go with that. We're all seeing people posting, asking for suppliers on, say, Facebook, on Instagram. People saying, "Oh, I'm getting married on this day. I'm looking for such and such a supplier." Ideally, not overpriced.
Yes. Or a reasonable price. And the suggestion, I think, in there is that whatever they're being quoted is not reasonable. And I think don't think it just makes your blood boil. I think it makes a lot of suppliers very hot under the collar because people don't realise actually what goes into it. I saw one post and it was complaining that a photographer was charging, I think, £750 for a day's work. Somebody, I think probably a planner, responded to that saying, except it's not a day's work, is it? And that's the point. You know, with a lot of suppliers, you're not just buying their time on the day.
You're not. And I think it's really interesting to let listeners know, because if you're planning your wedding, why is this the case? So people always say that, if you say the word wedding, it adds zeros onto the price. Okay, that might sometimes be the way. If I give, for an example, as a planner, if I'm planning a wedding for someone and I'm doing their full wedding planning, I'm probably over the course of a year to 18 months, I'm probably spending at least an hour to 2 hours a month working on their plan. I'm also probably managing, quoting and getting contracted 18 to 20 suppliers per wedding.
Yeah.
So if I turn that into a birthday party I probably only work on for 3 months. I'm probably only looking at 5 suppliers. So the scale of work is so much larger in a wedding. That is why it costs more, because time costs more.
For sure.
It takes longer to do. There's a lot more intricacies. With a birthday party, you're unlikely to have a table plan. You're unlikely to have quite so many people to look at dietary requirements or transport. So there is a reason that weddings cost more. When we talk about those photographers, £750 for a day's work. Firstly, can I tell you, that is an incredibly reasonable photography price, because I would say your average is about 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're getting with a photographer is their equipment, their insurance, their time. Now, their time is 8 to 10 hours on the day of your wedding. The time beforehand, drawing up your contract, getting you locked in, talking you through what your shots are, how you want that to be styled, going and visiting your venue sometimes. The time afterwards to edit.
That's really where it is.
Hundreds and hundreds of photos. That is worth the money.
Yeah.
So there are different ways to think about it. And I think if you're looking at supplies and you're thinking that feels out of price, that might be because your budget doesn't include, it's not enough of a budget to include some of those supplies within it. Mm. So then you have to rethink the style of what you're doing. And there are suppliers out there that will do things cheaper. There are ways to potentially say you have a half day of photography rather than a full day of photography.
Or you just have your ceremony.
Yeah, you just have your ceremony photograph. But it's not, suppliers don't just add on.
No, they don't.
Zeros for nothing.
And actually that's quite a depressing sort of idea that people would. I don't know any suppliers, good quality suppliers, who haven't carefully worked out what they're charging for and what their worth is.
If it's a supplier that has a product, for example, florists, they'll be charging based on the cost of flowers. I was looking at cake makers actually the other day. There was a lady that was sharing in 2023, and I might get these numbers slightly wrong, she paid £70 for whatever the bag of chocolate chips was to make her cakes. In 2025, that same bag was £400.
Wowza.
So the increase in costs due to sanctions,
Yeah.
pricing,
Well, cost of living
cost
generally.
of living, there are a lot of factors to take in. So, yeah, I think asking for something that's ideally not overpriced or not too expensive. Actually, just ask for what you want and you will get priced for that.
Yes.
Sometimes you might need to compromise on
Elsewhere.
Yeah, on
Goes
other
back
areas.
to the priorities, doesn't it?
Back to your priorities.
If you want a really good photographer and you initially squeal at the cost or the quote, look around. You'll probably find that quote is fair, and then go back to what else you're including in your day and think, well, I'd really like that. The photographs are really important to us. What else can we cut or compromise on?
And also, us wedding suppliers, overall, we love what we do. So we're not trying to rip you off. We do stuff because we love it. We really enjoy it. We really want to do the best for you. Unfortunately, if it's not something that you want to pay for, then it's something we can't do. We can't justify. So we'd love to work with you, but have a chat with us and then you'd understand what it is that makes up that budget, that money.
Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast.
So in every episode, we offer you 3 top tips. And our first one this time round is our sustainability tip. Keshira, what have we got?
So we talked about stationery. Again, I love stationery. I might have mentioned that. I'm seeing a lot of people using plantable stationery.
Do what?
Yeah. Do you want to plant your stationery?
I have no idea. You're talking in tongues.
So, seed paper. So seed paper is something that is out there. So you can print on it. Mm-hmm. You can print your menus. You can print your place names, your invitations, your envelopes. Everything is available in seed paper. And once you've used it, you can then plant that paper afterwards. So
what, in your garden?
Yeah, in your garden. So your guests can take that home and plant it, or at the end of the night you can get that all collected up and you can take it home and plant it.
Oh, I love that. That's a really lovely memento to boot.
It's really lovely.
Nice.
So that is my sustainability tip. If you're looking into stationery, have a look at what's plantable. Vicky, what's our DIY tip?
Now, this is a lovely one. This is one I've come across quite recently. So I have a wedding coming up and the couple have purchased a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle from a charity shop with a picture of a local beauty spot on it. And it happens to be the local beauty spot where they got engaged.
Gorgeous.
So it's really sweet. And they're going to use the jigsaw puzzle pieces as place name settings. So just with a gold pen and a bit of calligraphy, they're writing a name on not every piece of jigsaw, but everybody is getting a piece of puzzle with their name on to denote their place at table. Afterwards, they're going to ask everybody to go and fit those pieces into the jigsaw. Now, they'll already have done the border. So
okay,
they've done the border.
That's the bit that I like, is the edges.
So as a sort of post-dinner entertainment, everyone has to go to the table and find where their piece of puzzle, which has got their name in, fits in. And the idea is that at the end of the wedding, they're going to get it framed as a sort of memento. It costs them £3.50 from a charity shop, this jigsaw puzzle. Oh. So the cost will be in the framing. But I just thought that was a really lovely DIY way of kind of recording part of their day.
And actually, it's something fun for people to do.
Yeah.
So, I like that.
Bit of a challenge as well, and everybody loves a puzzle.
Love it.
So now we come to our supplier tip, and this time round we are delighted to welcome Jess Mays from Jess Mays Special Days, a Brighton-based celebrant. Jess, hit us up.
Make sure you hand over your project management hat the night before. If you've been managing the project of the wedding for a year or 18 months, you're obsessed with those details. And I need you on the wedding day to be the bride or the groom and not the project manager. You don't need to be worrying about confetti or pom-poms or anything else in between. So hand it over in a symbolic way, glass of champagne, find your right-hand person and say from now on in, you are in control, and you let go.
Fabuloso. Thank you, Jess. Excellent advice.
And we've come to the end of our episode.
We certainly have.
Lovely to chat to you again, Vicky.
As always.
Thank you for listening. We've been Wildly Wed, the real wedding planning podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Wildly Wed Pod. You can listen on Spotify or on Apple. You can also watch and listen on YouTube. So thank you, and we will speak to you next time.
Bye-bye now.
Say I do to the Wildly Wed podcast. Follow us on Insta at Wildly Wed Pod.